to temple, visit the vihara, visit the monks because of this rain retreat. That's a special opportunity, a special occasion that we think of developing our spirituality. So therefore, you may be going a little bit more frequently than the other times. Yet, still it is not getting into their minds because that environment is not there. Everything, what we have, what we see, influence in our lives. But that Buddhist environment not there around to see, as I mentioned earlier. So that's one of the drawback that we have. Otherwise, other things, definitely you can manage. Maybe as an adult, you are still practicing, no matter what you see. Those things may be not influenced, but you may be still that, because of that nature, you may be keep thinking about how beautiful my country is, how beautiful our country is. So we miss all those things. Yet, because of children, we are here. I think many of you maybe agree with me in that point. Many of you thinking, see all these things, yet to give our children better education, many parents want to stay back here. And also, especially current situation in Sri Lanka, in that sense, you all maybe still appreciate to be here. And this is a great opportunity and great occasion, great place for us to live and raise our children. Anyway, to my request for you is that keep the Dhamma in your mind, practice it. That brings solace to you, to all of your minds, even though that a lot of difficulties, a lot of drawbacks are there, yet it is a thing that we can be happy of. Looking at, considering all these things, we're still very fortunate to be a Buddhist. We're still fortunate to have Dhamma around us. We have technology so much of advance, and we can listen to Dhamma every day. Normally, we supposed to very quietly sitting and respectfully we have to listen to Dhamma, but we may not be able to do that. Most of the time, you may be able to turn on the video or Dhamma talk on the computer, so you can let it hear, and you can continue to do your work. So sometimes, as the way that we learn, it may be not that respectful, yet what can we struggle? How can we compromise? Our time-wise, we are running our time, very little time that we have freedom, and we have to do our homework, the work at home, and to run to the work and take care of children's needs, take care of each other's needs. So therefore, difficulties should be there, may be there, a lot of difficulties. Yet, listen to Dhamma, think of Dhamma. So that is the opportunity that we have. That is the time, that's the opportunity that we should be using for. Dhamma brings us peace into mind, no matter how busy we are. No matter how busy we are, still, when we can think of the Dhamma, that brings some kind of peace into our mind, feeling of joy in our mind. Dhamma is nothing else that we can be happy of. So, what I decided to do today was I pick up the gatha. I was reciting that gatha, abhinyayang abhinyatang bhave tabbancha bhavitang pahatabbang pahinang me tasma buddhosmi brahmana. When you hear this gatha, you may be hearing that word. So, tasma buddhosmi brahmana. So, he sounds like he's addressing a Brahmin for some reason. It is true. In this particular discourse, which we call Sela Sutta, this, you all can read this, if ever you have, because it's available in the internet. You can pick up this sutra and read it. It's a beautiful sutra. And so it's about you have learned all these things. You know these stories as a child. You have learned how, what is the importance of the Buddha and how he, enlightened, and what his, what kind of service he provided to the communities. So definitely, when we think of this word, Sela Sutta comes in the middle length saying, Majjhima Nikaya. We know in the Sutta Pitaka, there are 5 books out of 5. One is the longest discourses, and the other one is middle length saying, Majjhima Nikaya, middle length discourses. There are about 152 discourses in this, Majjhima Nikaya, the section. And there, in the if you read it in the English, definitely there are English discourses. So many different people have translated this one. Now, there's one particular discourse translator, what we call as Thanissaro Bhikkhu, who is an American monk. And also there are Bhikkhu Bodhi, who also American monk, very close to us. He used to live in Sri Lanka I believe, more than 11 years. I forgot how many altogether. It's about him. If I talk about little bit to mention, this Bhikkhu Bodhi, he pursued all his education. He did this PhD, and after finishing it, what happened to him? He ran to Sri Lanka and met the monk that he once met in California, and he became a monk. He gave up his life. Very similar story that comes in the Sela Sutta too. In Sela Sutta, it's a very beautiful discourse. There's one Brahmin who what we call as Jatila. His name was Kenya, Jatila Kenya. I think you remember what Buddha Hamadru did after his first sermon. The number of followers, when number of followers came to 60, he sent them off for the Dhamma teaching. Charata bhikkave charikang bahujana hitaya bahujana sukhaya attaya hitaya de manusanang, saying, giving that advice, monks, now go and teach. Do not go two in the same way or same direction. All of you can go in different direction and start teaching the Dhamma to the people, for the happiness of people, for the comfort of people, for the well-being of people, and also for the devas. Attaya, hitaya, sukhaya, deva manusana. That's how he said. And after sending him, you learn that he continued himself too. He has to, keep his promise with the King Bimbisara. I believe you remember that he, as a bodhisattva, he made a promise to keep that promise. He started going that direction. On the way, what happened? Still he was going there teaching. When we think of that Buddha's, tour, there are 2 different ways. One is called Turita in Pali word. I don't know what is called in English. The other one is Aturita. Turita Charika, Aturita Charika. That's the 2 methods of. Turita means he could use his psychic energy and travel using it. Quick appearance somewhere. Aturita Charika means he's going from where 1 yojana a day. Yojana is 1 league a day. He traveled with the other monks. On the way, what he does is he's teaching Dhamma, and also he the same day he going for the food rounds, continuing going on Pindapata, and he goes travel to the home to village to village, town to town. He kept going. As he was going, one day he arrived to this particular village called Apana. We are familiar with that word Apana. We are familiar with the word Apana Shala. But there was, this is not Apana Shala, but in the village called Apana. So as he was arrived in that town, slowly, he was going on Pindapath, collecting food. They very uh, serene appearance. So this Kenya, as he was wondering, Buddha was wondering, by that time he had the number of bhikkhus, 1250. Now, definitely I think you remember, they were going to the Magadha to keep the promise that he made to the King Bimbisara. So, having seen this, Kenya was very pleased with his Buddha as well as the monks following him. Very pleasant, so very serene appearance. So he came to know that he is the Buddha, Samma Sambuddha. And then what he wanted to do, Kenya decided to offer dana, lunch dana for him. So he invited the Venerable Blessed One. So would Master Gautama, together with the mendicant or Sangha, please accept my invitation for tomorrow's lunch? So he requested. But what do you think, that was he ready to accept that invitation? He could have, but the number of bhikkhus were so large. Buddha did not want to be a burden to this one person. So he said, Kenya, there are this many monks are there. So he said, he knew that there are a large number of monks. So he, knowing, he maybe in his mind, because saddha is there. Remember, we always say that in Sinhala, hita atnam patakudada. If you have your mind ready, nothing is impossible. So that's Sinhala saying, yet this man, definitely he was determined to do this. So he did invite him a second time. Still he did not accept it. For third time, so when he invited for third time, Buddha Gautama accepted. Would Master Gautama, together with the mendicant Sangha, please accept tomorrow's meal from me? Then what happened was, silently Buddha consented it. He was so happy. Kenya was so happy. He went back to his people, his uncles, aunties, relatives of the village, everybody. Of course, we know that in one village, everybody is, connected to each other. So a lot of people are connected to their lives. So therefore, sharing with them, they invited, oh, Buddha Gautama is visiting. So happily, very happily, he was, informing the other people. So everybody got together, they prepared. So some may be washing dishes and cutting the firewood. Some may be collecting vegetable and all these things. So by the time they prepared everything, and when they were preparing at the same time, there was one particular person who is very educated person. You know that not all the Brahmins and everybody who was in that at that time in India, everybody was educated, but there were some. We know there are a lot of educated Brahmins. Of course, they are the only one who was teaching. They are the only one who was allowed to do the rituals, religious rituals. So he was a very famous teacher whose name was Sela. He had 300 students, so young men, to whom he was educating, teaching, to be specialist on Veda, as well as the uh, special education regarding this, the features of someone. They could see, he could see, look at the features of the different persons, and looking at a person, they can predict. So for that, he was guiding these 300, young students. With them, he decided to go for a walk. On the way, he saw these many people. Many people were so busy, and they were doing, engaging in so many. It looks like that enthusiasm that they had was like, maybe either he was thinking there could be sacrifice, ritual, yaga. I think you heard the word yaga homa. So there may be something is going on, or else maybe there could be a wedding, perhaps, or else maybe King Bimbisara visiting. So that is how he felt. And as he was, walking, then he decided to go and see his friend, who was the Kenya, Brahmin Kenya. He went and visited and asked him, uh, what's going on? Are you having any sacrifice at your home? Or even is your daughter or son is getting married? Or else is King Bimbisara visiting you? Are you preparing lunch for him? What is happening? So as he asked, what he did say was, no, 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 my friend. He was very a sailor was very respected, teacher. So he said, no, none of these things. But there is something going on. Now, there are the Buddha Gautama, who came out from Shakyan family. He is a royal family member. He is the Buddha now. He is visiting. He's passing by this way. So I invited him. So when he heard the word, this man, sailor, the great teacher, when he heard the word that Buddha is visiting, wow, that's something. You remember that there are so many other, stories you might have heard. Some people, for example, you learn that for sure. When the Anathapindika, Sudatta Chetty, when millionaire Sudatta, he heard also when he was in his business tour in Magadha state, he was visiting his friend. Similarly, that, he mentioned something to Buddha. He was very happy hearing the word Buddha. The word even rare to hear. So then he was so happy to hear that. Then he learned about the Buddha and he's joyful. He could not stay home. Even the midnight, it was so dark, yet for him, it was like a, early morning. So very bright. So we remember that story. Very similarly, this man also was so happy that a sailor hearing it, then he asked twice, what did you say? Did you say that the Buddha, actually the word used the word awakened one. Did you say awakened one? Yes, I said awakened one. So he just wanted to make sure that there's a Buddha, because he also familiar something that he had seems like that's sitting in his mind. He is hearing this. He wanted to make sure that there is the Buddha, and Buddha is visiting, and he is here, awakened one. Then, because it's so rare word, we know that. I think you have learned so many different ways. So definitely, we are so fortunate in that sense. All of us, you and me, all of us are here during this, still the Buddha's teachings existing. So if you really want to see the Buddha, as Buddha mentioned, we can see him through the Dhamma. Yo Dhammang Passati, so Mang Passati. So that's how Buddha said. So definitely it's true. If we learn, if we have time to read and learn and analyze what the Dhamma Vichaya, examine the Dhamma, we can see him. Because the Dhamma will create an image in us. So that way, through the Dhamma, we can see the Buddha. So similarly, so this uh, uh, sailor, he asked the question, Mr. Kenya, or Kenya, did you say the awakened one? I said the awakened one, yes. So 3 times he asked this question from his friend Kenya. Then what did sailor want to do? Sailor thought it's hard to even to find the word awakened one in the world. This is the first time, because this is a time that the word is so spreading out very beautifully around in India, very very fast. It was spreading. So how is it spreading? This man was saying, uh, even though there are so many things, this sutra is very long discourse. I just make it short and just explain to you what happened and what he did. And I ask all of you to find this discourse. It's available in the internet. Read it, please. English, you may be able to very easily understand. So there's a site called Sutta Central. In there, you can find it. Venerable Sujata, this Australian monk, he made it available for us, in addition to Bhikkhu Tanisaro. So it's beautifully written, simple. I'm sure that all of you can understand this. Even if you can sit with your children, if you can read it nicely, they would understand it too. So this is the only way to share the Dhamma with our children, with your children. So I'm sure that the reason why you asked, Venerable Anand asked me to speak to, give the Dhamma talk in English, also same reason. There could be young children who may listening and who may be able to understand. So make it available for them, please. And they would realize you can get together and discuss. You don't have to rush to read it, finish it. That's not the purpose. Read it very carefully, very slowly, and then whatever you can, explain, you can explain it to them. So that way they will remember. Even though they are not using it now, one day they are going to use this Dhamma in their lives. There's no blessing other than the Dhamma. So therefore, I request all the parents who are here to listen and practice and share it with them, explain it to them. So this is our duty, your and our duty, to share the Dhamma with small children. Otherwise, they would tell you that, Amma, you didn't teach us. Like in the same thing with the Sinhala language. There are many children that I know, they always blame, Amma, you didn't teach us. Tata, you didn't teach us. That's your fault. I have seen many children who are blaming parents saying that. So therefore, I'm reminding you, I have 35 years of experience with children here in this country. So therefore, I think I'm sharing what I understand, what I have seen. So what I experience, time to time from their expressions regarding the Dhamma as well as regarding the language. So then what happened? As he heard, sailor, together with his students, approached the Buddha. He said to his students, "Come quietly, gentlemen, and tread gently, for the Buddhas are intimidating like a lion living alone. When I am consulting with the ascetic Gautama, don't interrupt. Wait until I have finished speaking." So that is very true. There were many Brahmins. They always, Buddha sometimes visit secretly. Sometimes he spend just walk into the other, the temples, other ashramas. They call it ashramas. As they were going, so then, wow, don't speak now. Keep quiet, observe silence. Tathagata does not like the noise. So you have seen that. Even there's one particular time, there was a king, Ajasatta was visiting the monastery. There were few hundred actually more than 1,000 monks were living, but no pin drop sound there. It's very quiet, very quiet. So he was scared to go. He asked his disciples, he asked his ministers, "Are you taking me to kill me there? I don't think there is anybody." So such a quiet place was the monastery. Unlike today, what happens today, when we all got together, we keep talking and very noisy, right? I think maybe you are experiencing that in the temple. When all of you get together, forget that you are in the temple, you keep talking and huge noise. You know what Buddha said to that? That's like a malukade. Buddha mentioned in one of the particular discourse, Buddha mentioned referring to that kind of situation. What is this big noise like a fisherman's wharf? He asked that same using the same word. So therefore, we have to be very mindful. Very mindful. Temple, monastery. If we could observe noble silence, that means you are practicing Dhamma. Remember, you are becoming a good example to the others. So that's also I want to remind you for you to practice. Keep that in your mind. Whenever possible, as much as possible, practice Dhamma. Not just listen. Just listening is no meaning. So this is one of the reasons I share with you why children, I think you may be having, I don't know if you have this, experience with the children. Children sometimes do not listen to you, or they don't want to go to temple with you. They use the bad word. I think I do not want to use that word because children may be listening. To referring to that you are not practicing, they say. So start with HIP. So you can realize that what is that word is. So they say that they blame our parents. Sometimes we don't want to go to temple because they are not practicing. They say that you're not practicing. So therefore, you can be a role model to children by practicing. So then they would start practicing. They would be thinking, otherwise they get a wrong impression that children may be saying, no, Buddhism is not to practice. They may also think that just to listen. We are always trying to get them to think Buddhism is for us to practice. That is how we beautify our lives, our spirituality, by practicing it. So therefore, I encourage that and also share the Dhamma with the children and get them to practice so you can be a role model practicing. It's hard. I'm not saying, even when I teach children, I always say that children, this is a big challenge. All of you, this is a hard work. I get them to observe 8 precepts. I remind, this is a challenge. Remember, this is not a normal day. It's a hard working day. So you may call it sometimes, I know that children like to say boring. It is not. But spiritually, there's 2 sides in our brain. So we have to strengthen these both sides. So this is how I get children to keep practicing. So if you also can take this challenge, and there are a lot of things I want to share with parents, but this is not the time for that. So yet I would just share with you this story of sailor. So sailor, he said that be quiet, be mindful, don't talk if Tathagata does not like the noise. So he always very silent, a silent observer. So he appreciated. Do not talk while I'm talking to him. When I finish talking to him, then you can, if you have any questions, one by one, you can ask. See how disciplined they are. Just hearing, learning about the Buddha, nature of the Buddha. This man knew it because he is a person who knows. He is the science of the body. Knowing it, he knew the way. In the Veda, there are 3 Vedas, of course. In the Veda, they describe how would be the Tathagata, nature of the Tathagata. Knowing it, he was, advising this. Not having seen, this is the first time he going to see the Tathagata. And then he went. With going there, so he met the Tathagata. Then now he he had the chance. This Sailor Brahmin had the opportunity to see. You know that 32 special signs, that is Mahapurusha Lakshana, we call it. So this man has the ability to see these signs. He was observing while he was talking, he was looking at him and he's observing. So he saw 30 of them, two he couldn't see. Then knowing the Buddha, his what is going through in his mind, he made it for him to visible in using his psychic power. He made it not to other people. So, Buddha had so many, uh, those are the, special abilities that Buddha had. We know that uh, Buddha, we talk about 9 qualities of the Buddha. Within that, everything is included. So Kenya mentioned to him, so all these 9 qualities of the Buddha. And then, so he said, like a fragrance of flower, spreading his virtuousness. So everybody is going, learning about it. Everybody knows that. So many people are going and respecting him. So as he heard it, that's the reason why the sailor wanted to go visit him. So sailor went and went. He went. Now he is a good teacher, a specialist who can see the special signs on him and who can see. Uh, Now he was still, even though he heard from Kenya, that he is the awakened one, even though now he see all these 32 special marks on his body, Mahapurusha Lakshana, yet he's still not sure. He was suspicious about this. Then what did he do? Then he thought he had learned that from his, uh, great grandparents, his forefathers, he had heard that they were discussing. In such an occasion, if you describe about the Buddha, then the Buddha himself he's not going to directly ask him, are you the Buddha or anything? But what he did was, this man was, Sailor Brahmin was describing. So look at this one. Oh, blessed one, your body perfect, you are radiant, handsome, lovely to behold, golden colored, with teeth so white, you are strong. What you heard from Narasiya Gata. See, in the Narasiya Gata, what you hear is those, special mark description of this way. So similarly, so he was in using the poems, he was start describing, and now he asked, so you are having, he knew that either the person who has these signs, he would be either would be a universal monarch, or else if he leave his home, he would be the Buddha. But without, even though he knew it, definitely he still didn't want to make the decision that he is the Buddha. Still suspicious. He wanted to get it from the Buddha. So thinking so, he described, he start, saying description, this beauty of the Buddha and all these special signs, and saying that you are fit to be king, a wheel-turning monarch, chief of charioteers, victorious in 4 quarters, Lord of all India. So that's, he said, you are fit to be a universal monarch. What are you doing here, wearing a robe? Why don't you go and rule as a universal monarch? So he is encouraging him to go. Then what did Buddha said? I am a king sailor, the supreme king of the teaching, means the Dhamma. He used the word Dhammaraja, supreme king of the teachings. So Venerable Sujata has translated that, the Dhamma, into the teachings, okay? By the teaching, I roll forth the wheel, which cannot be rolled back. So I'm turning the wheel. Nobody can roll it back. I think you heard the word in the Pali. You will be understanding this beautiful word that we hear that word in the what do you call this, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Beautiful word that he used. So, having said that, what he was saying is, uh, I am nobody else. I am the Dhammaraja, without using the word Buddha, but later on he mentioned that. Definitely, he mentioned, I am the Buddha. That's why that Gatha that I mentioned to you, he used that. So then, who is your general? Then he's asking again the question. So you claim to be awakened, the supreme king of the teaching. I roll for the I roll for the teaching, so you say, Gautama. Then, who is your general, the disciple who follows the teacher's way, who keeps rolling the wheel or of teaching you rolled forth? So he's asking question. Now you say you are the king, you are rolling the wheel, and so show me the your forces. Who is going to take that Senapati? So Konu Senapati Bhoto Savako Saturanvayo. So that's how he asked, where is your Senapati? We know that there were two, right? Dhamma Senapati. Who is that? Who was the Dhamma Senapati? Commander of Dhamma. Sariputta and the Moggallana. They were the one, of course, two chief disciples. So he explained it to him. So now still he wanted to make sure that he is the Buddha. Where are they? Who is teaching? Who is taking care of after you? Who is following you? By me the wheel was rolled forth, said the Buddha, the supreme wheel of teaching, Sariputta, taking after the realized one, keep it rolling on. We know that. Dhamma Senapati Sariputta. That's the title that he had. So he was answering. I have known what should be done, known. This is the meaning of that Gatha, I say. Abhinyayang abhinyatang bhave tabbancha bhavitang. Pahatabang pahinang me tasma buddhosmi brahmana. This is the God. That's how he addressed. I have known what should be known, and developed what should be developed, and given up what should be given up. And so Brahmin, I am a Buddha. I am a Buddha. He didn't say I am the Buddha. He said I am a Buddha. Why is that? Of course, when we talk, we always say the Buddha, the Buddha. Because Buddha's time to time, Buddha appears in after so many Mahakalpas. We know there would be a time there was Buddha Shunya. No Buddha would be existing. There would be a time that even you have thirst to hear the word, as this Brahmin said. So that word even is very rare. So luckily that we, in that sense, all of us are very fortunate to be during the time that Dhamma is existing. Now, what is he teaching? So, of course, we know that what he has been teaching. Dispel your doubt in me. Now, because Buddha saw the mind of this Brahmin, he's asking all these questions because he was, suspicious. He was not sure. He didn't want to take it by himself. He is the Buddha. He didn't. So he wanted to get it from him. That's what he did. Dispel your doubt in me. Make up your mind, Brahmin. The sight of Buddha is hard to find again. See how beautiful it is? That's why I said it's very simple. When it put to, we will be enjoying the Pali Gatha. It's very sweet, very nice, very melodical. You can chant it. At the same time, if you like to, understand it, you can get the translation, read it. Even if you want to learn it in Sinhala, that's also there in Sarala Sinhala Tripitaka. If you find, download the app, you can listen to read all these sutras. So I'm saying this to encourage you to learn, because It's a rare opportunity that we all have. So I'm just trying to tell you, share with you that encouraging you to learn Dhamma. We know everybody is busy, yet it's a great opportunity for us to learn. At least, we all have to build up some kind of discipline, at least 1 hour a week, if you can spend, keeping everything behind. Just this as a treat for yourself. I am a Buddhist. I have the Dhamma. I have all the facilities. So therefore, let us practice this once a week. Give up all the other work and pick up things and read it and discuss. So things are available more than long time ago. So maybe a lot of Dhamma talks, beautiful Dhamma talks are there. I also listen to Dhamma talks sometimes. Whenever we have opportunity, when we are free, we do listen. At least when I go to sleep, I listen to one Dhamma talk. So that help us. That help us to build up our spirituality. Very important. So I am Buddha Brahmin, the supreme surgeon, one of those whose appearance in the world is hard to find again. See, these are the Buddha's words translated into English. Holy, unquelled, crusher of Mara's army, having subdued all my opponents, I rejoice, fearing nothing from any quarter. You remember how he defeated the Mara Sena, Mara Parajay. Think of those things. When we read these things, our mind goes to that what we have learned as children in a Buddhism class in our schools. I'm just mentioning to parents. You all have learned these things. So having mentioned all these things, what did he taught us in brief, if we say? So we know that Sattis Bodhipakshika Dharma, 37 factors of enlightenment. If you think of 37 factors of enlightenment, what did he teach? Fourfold mindfulness, Satara Satipatthana, Satara Samyak Pradana, and Satara Irdipad, and Panchindri, Panchabala, Satta Bojjanga, Ariyo Attangiko Maggo, Eightfold Path. All these things, of course, we know that Eightfold Path, before Eightfold Path, we know Satara, Four Noble Truths, Chaturara Satya. These are the things that he realized and shared with us. And these are the important part of it. Of course, for 45 years, he was teaching us, and there are so many discourses. Among all these things, important things, these are these 37 factors of enlightenment, and he showed us. And that's a path. Path is there. So now, when we think of that, so what he realized in the Gatha, what I mentioned, Abhinyayang Abhinyatam. What I have to realize, I realized. So he realized this Dhamma, and Abhinyayang Abhinyatam, Bhave Tabbancha Bhavitam. What did he bhavita? What did he practice? His fourfold mindfulness he practicing. He practiced that Dhamma. So what he was asking us was to practice the Dhamma. So that's his will that he encouraged us to practice was that unturnable. So cannot reverse it. So that is there. So that Dhamma is available even today for us. So what he had to realize, he definitely did practice. He did practice them. And Abhinyayang Abhinyatang Bhave Tabbancha Bhavitang Pahatabbang Pahinang Me Tasma Buddhosmi Brahmana. So what he should know, he learned, and what he had to cultivate, develop, he did develop them. Pahatam, what he has let go, he let go. He could let go of. That is what we call as tanha, our attachment, our desires. So he let go of those unwholesomeness, unwholesome skills. It is, of course, we know that he, for such a long time, he was practicing those things in the samsaric life by performing those 10 perfections. So all these things we have to apply. When we think of the Dhamma, all these things should be coming into our mind. How did we practice? Can we practice it? Of course we can practice. Maybe not to the strength of what he did, but at least if we keep doing that, we would be able to achieve the goal what he achieved. Pahatabbang pahinang me. What is that pahatabba? What is that he had to let go? So these things we have to think. By thinking, then definitely we all can practice. So of course we know that what you realize was that dukkha satya, the Four Noble Truths. Dukkha satya is the one that you realize, dukkha, nothing else. There is, sometimes maybe it's not true. Some people, they blame monks for talking about dukkha. I know, I saw there was one man, he was blaming monks, even to Buddhism. Maybe he was, Dharma. All these things is always talking about the dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. That's due to ignorance. Some people, maybe their arrogant nature. So they may be blaming for people, the Buddhas. We should never accumulate any unwholesomeness, blaming Dhamma or the Buddha or the Sangha. We have to be very careful, mindfully practicing. But we have to make effort. We don't know. What do we know about Dhamma? How much do we know? We know just simple, very little compared to what Buddha knew. Buddha, we call it Lokavidu. He knew, what he mentioned, that what I have taught you was something like this much of dust that he had on his nail. Is what he knew was something like this whole earth. Or in the story of simile of the leaves, handful of leaves. So he's taking handful of leaves, he asked the monks, what I have in my hand, is that, what is greater, the handful of leaves in my hand or the leaves in the forest? Definitely, the monks answered, what we see around us in this forest, that's greater than what you have in your hand. Something like that. The Dhamma that you realize is greater than what we know. We know nothing in that sense. We have to still to struggle to learn, make effort to learn that Dhamma. Definitely by reading, by listening, so that we bear not only reading and listening, holding them. So Dhammang sunati dhareti and charata dhammi. So sunata dhareta charata dhammi. Listen to it or read it, hold on to it, and practice it. This is the advice that Buddha himself gave it to the monks. Learn it, analyze it, examine it, and practice it. This is how he said. So what we know, what you have heard, I know that you are listening, you know a lot of Dhamma, but what you have to keep thinking about it. That when you keep thinking about Dhamma, definitely it keeps our minds pure. We have to stay in the wholesome side. So therefore, it would be very helpful for us to remember the Dhamma and learn it, reflect on it again and again. That would be keeping you out of all these unwholesome thoughts generating in your minds. So that's a very important thing. So those who may follow me. Those who don't may go. Right here, I will go forth his presence, the one of such a splendid wisdom. Sir, if you like the teachings of the Buddha, we will also go. See now, after listening to all these things, what happened? Those young people. After this, I'm asking you to read it again because, definitely there are a lot to related, think in this course. So this man, he's not a simple person, even though he's a Veda teacher. He's a great teacher in Vedic tradition, three Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Saman. These were the three Vedas. I think you know that he, Prince Siddhartha as a bodhisattva, as a little prince, he learned them too. And similarly, this man knew, even though he was a great teacher, what did he do? He decided to go and practice with the Buddha, listen to the Buddha. Why is that? He is not a simple teacher. He also is someone who has practiced, performed virtues to be meet with the Buddha. I think you know that there were many people who had just listening to one word, they attain enlightenment. There were many people like that. Pukkusati, Bahya Daruchirya, the man who was rushing when he heard, wow, when he heard the word of the word Buddha, he wanted to hear. There are many stories, many people, many disciples were like that. Even I think you remember the Bahya Daruchirya's story. When he heard the word Buddha, he wanted to just go find him. So hearing the word Buddha, he came and he went around. Buddha was gone already for his food collection, and he ran after the street by street looking for him. Then he quickly asked, Buddha, please teach me just a little bit of Dhamma. He was very thirsty for Dhamma. I think you know that story. He became an enlightened. These are only 9 words. 3 sentences he heard. So from that, he enlightened. Their previous life stories were very beautiful. That's long stories. But however, there were people who just hearing the word Buddha very enthusiastically went looking for the Buddha, similar to Anathapindika. There are many. And when this Brahmin, Sela Brahmin, when he listened to him, by listening to him, he trusted. He definitely, this the Buddha, I'm going to follow him. Now what happened to him? On the same way, he says, like he said here, he was telling his students, 300 students, says, I'm going to follow, this is the Buddha, I'm going to follow him. So how humble he was, even though he's a great teacher, even though he had 300 young students. So he did not have that arrogance. He became very humble. He went to become the follower of the Buddha. And all those students, young students, also became followers of the Buddha. So that's a beautiful sutta. Then he says, these 300 Brahmins with joined palms held up ask, may we lead the spiritual life in your presence, Blessed One? He has a question. So you remember that, we heard in many sutras, he said, Ajjatagge Paunatvetang, like, when you listen to Pirit, that even in the those in the sutras, they said, from today onward, please take me as your follower. So give me the ordination. So asking them very similarly, Sela Brahmin also went to be a student of the Buddha, and all the other 300 young men, they also became. The spiritual life is well explained, said the Buddha, visible in this very life, immediately effective. Here the going forth isn't in vain for one who trains with diligence, who is practicing with diligence, appamado, who is in, make effort, so you can realize it. It's not vain. You are not empty. You are not wasting your time. So you will be having benefit of the practice. You will receive the benefit of the practice who is practicing it. And Brahmin Sela, together with his assembly, received the going forth, the ordination in the Buddha's presence, right there. So 300 people became followers of the Buddha. They became an enlightened. Not at the same time, but they kept practicing after listening to Dhamma. So what do we have to do? Now you have to think. So these are inspiring stories, yet we also Buddhist, we also having knowing the Dhamma, how much can at least something that if you take from this, you know, like uh, now, as Buddha mentioned, if we can start practicing, we know that we all, promising ourselves to observe Panchasila. Sila is there. And of course, I know that all of you offering dana and these things are there. Yet do not just satisfied from that. Let us all, including myself, so especially this Vasana retreat, this is one of the way that most of you requesting monks to stay in the temple, asking them to observe this Vasa. During this Vasana retreat, may we all be able to achieve some kind of, you know, spiritual height. So that we definitely, word is not going to be helpful, but we have to put ourselves into practice. So meditating, at least if you, whatever you didn't do up to now, so that those things you can start doing. So if you want to decide, as I mentioned, as I suggested, once a week that you dedicate your time to learn Dhamma and discuss with Dhamma and with the children, and from that time, so you are, that's your family, it may become a family ritual that may be bringing some benefit to you as well as the children. So that's my proposal, my suggestion for you. So definitely then we have benefited from the Dhamma talk. Today's Dhamma talk, especially that your friend is Ranjit and Chandima, both of them wanted to share this Dhamma evening, Dhamma Dana, because of that. So if you listen, if you decided to practice something out of this, definitely that would be great blessing that you have received, that Dhammadana, great gift that you have received from him. So, abhinyayang abhinyatang bhave tabbanch bhavitang pahatabbang pahinang me tasma buddhosmi brahmana. So we should be able to take that, not into that level, at least, level before, lower than that. Buddha, of course, he becoming Buddha, he was saying, expressing that feeling. That's a joyful feeling. And if we could practice what we call as the Eightfold Path, it's not just something to that philosophical. We always, I hear that from many of our friends, it's a great philosophy. What benefit, what use of that saying that it's a great philosophy if we are not practicing, if we are not applying that into our lives? So therefore, make a decision for yourself. That's your benefit for us to practice this Eightfold Path, Samma Ditti, Samma Sam, right view, all these things, those, eight sets. So these are for us to practice. It's everyday life. Once we decided to practice these precepts, of course, those things are covering. It's not particular time that we have to, oh, I'm practicing this Eightfold Path nowadays. We don't have to say that into anybody. We are not doing this to show off to the world, but we are doing this for us to improve our spiritual qualities, that virtuousness, and that would lead us to the what the Sale Brahmin did. Sale Brahmin, he was just teaching these students, and he was just going for a walk. Now, see, now he had that ability to let go. He had a great opportunity. That is not because simply he did that, just heard it this lifetime, but he had been practicing. At least for us to have that kind of opportunity, we all should be practicing something, and we all should have that idea in our mind. I really want to realize this Dhamma and find my own liberation. That we have to do by ourselves. Nobody else can do it for us. So therefore, please remember. So remember the Dhamma. So I didn't, full details on this one. I just read from here and there, from just to make you interested in that. Just to, uh, inspire you in the Dhamma. This is a beautiful discourse coming in the middle and saying it's available. So I recommend you to read it again. That's a simple but beautiful, beautiful sutta. So how he left, how Sailor left his homely life or his ascetic, Brahmin life and became an enlightened one. He became a homeless person. He was happy. He did not hold on to what he had, his hold on to his big title as a great teacher. See how it is not something easy to do. Hard work. So definitely it's a hard work. He did that. He achieved his, but maybe his previous life stories, what he had developed. So this was the flower of humanity. So he achieved the goal of humanity, that we always call that Buddha is the flower of humanity. So once, if you could realize that Dhamma, that is, we are achieving that beautiful opportunity, enlightening yourself. So now listening to this Dhamma, if you inspired, if you decided to do something for you as well as for your children and practicing it, that is the benefit that you receive from this Dhamma talk today, from Dhamma Dana that your friend shared with you. So therefore, I'm sure that this Dhamma would help all of us to realize the teachings of the Buddha and be on the path of the Buddha. May it bring us a strength and courage to practice, find our own liberation uh, in this, if not this lifetime, definitely in the near future births, for us to learn the Dhamma, because Dhamma is existing. What we have heard is that 2,500 more years, perhaps. So if it is the situation, so we have to keep that in our mind. So හොඳයි. එහෙනම් මම එහෙම කියලා ඒ කතන්දරේ ඔයත්තන්ට එහෙම ෂෙයා කර මේ බෙදාගෙන ධර්ම දානීය හැටියට අද දවසේ ඒ රංජිත් මහත්මයාත් චන්දිමනෝන මහත්මියත් තමන්ගේ මාමණ්ඩිය වෙනුවෙන් අද සන්ධ්‍යාවේ ඩේවිඩ් අප්පුහාමි මහත්මයා සිහිපත් කරමින් මෙම ධර්ම දානමය පින්කම සිදු කළේ. ඉතින් එතුමා මේක මහා දානයක්. අපි දන්නවා සබ්බ දානං ධම්ම දානං ජිනාති කියලා අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තේ. ඉතින් ඒ විදිහට ඒ අසු විදිහට මේ ධර්ම දානමය පින්කමෙන් දියුණු කරගත්තා වූ කුසල ශක්තිය ඒ සිහිපත් කරන ආදරණීය මහමණ්ඩිය ඩේවිඩ් අප්පුහාමි මහත්මයාණන් පින් බලාපොරොත්තු වන භවයක නම් මේ පින් අනුමෝදනා එතුමාගේ සසර ජීවිතයේ සුවපත් කරගෙන උතුම් නිවනින් සැනසේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරමු. ඒ වගේම විහාරස්ථානයේ ආනන්ද හාමුදුරුවෝ පොඩි හාමුදුරුවෝ දෙනමත් ඇතුළු ඔබ අප හැම දෙනාටමත් මේ ධර්ම දේශනාව තුළ මේ ධර්මය අපි අපගේ ජීවිතවලටත් ඈඳාගෙන එකතු කරගෙන ලස්සන ජීවිතයක්, ලස්සන දැහැමි ජීවිතයක් ගත කරමින් ඒ ධර්ම අවබෝධ කර ගැනීමේ ශක්තිය දියුණු කරගන්නවා කියලා අධිෂ්ඨාන කරමු. එසේම අපි හැම දෙනාටත් අපේ හදා වඩා පෝෂණය කළ ගුරු දෙමව්පිය ආදීන්ටත් ලෝකයේ ශාසනය රකින සිල් දෙවියන්ටත් මේ පුණ්‍ය බලයෙන් උතුම් වූ අමා මහ නිවන් සුව සලසා ගන්නට ඒකාන්තයෙන් මේ පින හේතු වාසනා වේවා කියලා සාදු කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරමු. එහෙනම් අපි එතනින් නතර වෙනව නේද? අහන්න යමක් තියෙනවනම් එහෙම ඇහුවත් කමක් නෑ. මේ ඔයත්තන්ට ඉතින් මට කියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ ඔය කාරණේ තියෙන මේ ධර්මයේ තියෙනවා අපිට බොහෝම පහසුවෙන් ලබා ගන්නට කාලය හදාගන්න කියන එක විතරයි. කාලය හදාගන්නේ අපේ ශික්ෂණයක් අවශ්‍යයි. ඒකත් සීලයේ කොටසක් හැටියට දක්වන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා අපි අවිවේකයි වෙලාව නැහැ කිය නෙමෙයි. ඒක කියවෙන්න පුළුවන් පුරුද්දට. නමුත් අපි මේ පුරුද්ද අතහැරලා අපි කොටසක් එකතු කරගනිමු. ඒක තමයි මේ වස් කාලේ ඔය ඇත්තෝ හැම දෙනාගේම අරමුණ. බොහෝ දෙනා අපි මේ වස් කාලය තුල අපේ ජීවිතවල යමක් අපි දියුණු කරගන්න ලැබේවා කියන එක තමයි ප්‍රාර්ථනාවකින් පමණක් හරියන්නේ නැහැ. නේද? ප්‍රාර්ථනාවකින් හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ප්‍රාර්ථනාවත් එක්ක ක්‍රියාදාමයක් තියෙන්නට ඕනේ. ඉතින් ඒක තමයි අපි දියුණු කරගන්නට ඕනේ වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපි එහෙම අදිෂ්ඨාන කරගන්න. අදිෂ්ඨානය පාරමිතාවක් මතක තියාගන්නකෝ. බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ අදිෂ්ඨානයේ පාරමිතාවකට වැඩලා තමයි එතෙන්ට ආවේ. ඒ උපරිම අවස්ථාව තමයි එදා වජ්‍රාසනයේ වැඩ සිටි අවස්ථාව. මාගේ සම්මස් ඇටලේ නහර වියලී ගියත් බුදු වී මිස මා මෙතනින් නැගිටින්නේ නෑ කියන අදිෂ්ඨානයෙන් තමයි උන්වහන්සේ ඒ වජ්‍රාසනය මත වැඩ හිටියේ. ඒක තමයි අදිෂ්ඨානයේ උපරිම අවස්ථාව. එහෙම කළා උන්වහන්සේ බුද්ධත්වය අවබෝධ කරගත්තා. ඉතින් ඒ අවබෝධ කරගත්ත ධම තමයි අපිට තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේ මේ මහා කැපකිරීමක් කළා. සාර අසංඛ්‍ය කල්පලක්ෂයක් පාරමී ධර්ම පුරලා. ඒ අවබෝධ කරගත්ත ධම බලන්නකෝ. එයා එතුමාට තිබුණ සුමේද තාපසයට නිවන් ධර්ම අවබෝධය කරන්න. නමුත් ඒක පැත්තකට දාලා තමයි අපි හැමදෙනා වෙනුවෙන් තමයි ඒ බෝසතාණන් වහන්සේ ඒ තීරණය ගත්තේ. ඉතින් එහෙම කරපු උන්වහන්සේගේ දහම අපිට තිබියදී උන්වහන්සේට අපි දෑත් එකතු කරලා නමස්කාර කරමින් ඒ ධර්ම රත්නයට අපි නමස්කාර කරමින් ඒ උන්වහන්සේගේ ආර්ය මහා සංඝ රත්නයට නමස්කාර කරමින් අපිත් අදිෂ්ඨානයක් කරගන්න ඕනේ. අපිත් එහෙනම් ඒ ධම්මග ගමන් කරනවා කියන අදිෂ්ඨානය ඇති කරගන්න. එතකොට ඔය ඇත්තන්ටත් පුළුවනි අපි කාටත් පුළුවනි යම් ඵලයක් ලබන්නට. ඉතින් එහෙම අදිෂ්ඨානයෙන් තමයි මේ ක්‍රියාව කරන්නට ඕනේ වෙන්නේ. හොඳයි හැම දිනාටම තෙරුවන් සරණයි.